So we've discovered something new. By waving at the camera, it turns on. So anyway, welcome to Riding Your Wave.
I'm blank. Keep talking.
That's all right. Tonight we're going to expand a few bits on the previous subject of fitting in, becoming a regular, and how that's an issue.
We're gonna talk more about third culture. We met up with a friend today, and they asked, what are you doing? What is this about? And I tried to explain it, and I realized that I don't have a solid explanation. I have my teeth in, so you're gonna have to hear the list. Usually I don't have my teeth in, then you have to see the teeth, Yeah.
But welcome. It was too dark to work in the cabin today, for one thing, and the air quality is pretty bad outside. So welcome to our green screen fake bookcase.
Yeah. Nobody has a green screen of a messy bookcase with books stacked funky.
Okay, it's not a green screen. We have books.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, forget it.
He shoves the bookcase so full that if you take a book out,
it comes apart.
The whole bookcase falls apart.
We have Jenga books. It's a thing. You know this is a fact.
I know it's a fact.
Happen.
I know it's a fact. Anyway.
Now that we're completely sidetracked on the beginning of our talk with you guys tonight.
So, one of the things with being third culture, one of the things with growing up on the edge, I'm Native American, but I'm not Native American enough. I'm Romani, but I sure as hell ain't Romani enough. I'm Irish. I got nothing. You grow up without those connections. If I lived in Oklahoma, if we grew up in Oklahoma, then I'd be Choctaw. They wouldn't care what my mix was. I'm just Choctaw. If I grew up in culture Romani, they wouldn't care. You're just Romani. I don't know about Ireland. I really don't. Irish traveler, whatever. I don't know. English, whatever. English traveler. I don't know.
Pikeys?
Pikeys, yeah. Pikeys, I know!
They always throw a dag in the deal.
Yeah. Everybody in my family raises and breeds dogs.
There's a reason for these tropes sometimes.
Yeah.
But the big thing is...
You grow up without those connections, and then you're an adult. And other people talk about going over to the cousins, hanging out with the aunts and uncles, all of that. And I have cousins. One threatened to kill me if I ever talked to his kids. I don't. Only child of an only child with other issues we won't go on into. You don't have the cultural connections.
No, it's not there.
And you start thinking of yourself as generically white or generically American until you walk into an Elmer's restaurant or that gift store last week. And the clerk looks at you and the expression on their face is, wow, you have black eyes. And then they give you a dirty look, turn and walk away.
The big part of the third culture is that you never quite fit in anywhere. You don't meet anyone's preconceived notions of what race or culture should be. So they can't pigeonhole you, so they other you. And that's one thing that third culture people find quite often is being othered.
In the racist Bible called the Turner Diaries, which if you haven't read, I do recommend reading it just so you know what the other side is thinking, because they actually quote this book all the time and people don't catch it.
Pen name Andrew McDonald. You can probably find it at a gun show. That's where you're likely to find this book.
In that book, there's a point in the Revolution where they're rounding people up. And they round up all the people of color and send them on a forced march to the border. But everybody who's questionable, their eyes are too black, their skin is just a little too dark, their stomach looks like it has a tan, but that their inner thighs look like they have a tan. They got just a little bit too much melatonin. They're just a little weird.
Melatonin too.
Melatonin.
Melanine. It's been a long day. So
it's been a very long day
Give us a little
today.
bit of a break on this.
I'm on pain meds for a tooth problem, which
So-
started in the last video. But anyway, all of these people that they're not quite sure of, that they don't label a person of color, they string up on street lamps. It's called the Day of the Rope, and they just kill them.
You might hear Day of the Rope referenced in some cultural settings with certain
And
groups.
sometimes
That's what it
they're
refers
talking
to.
about dragging their enemies out, like Crystal Knight. But in the book, it's specifically for everyone who isn't clearly one race or another. It's for everyone that's just not quite. And having read that book, having known people who were on the hard right side, being related to a few people who are on the hard right side, listening to how they talk, they all have hit lists. They all have people like my cousin telling me that if I ever talk LBGT with his son, he'll kill me because he doesn't want his son to hear about it. And it's like,
Again, that falls into what we mentioned earlier about ways to identify a place which is potentially safe.
LBGT.
Yeah.
If you see a pride flag, you're safe, or you're safer.
You're safer. You have a better probability of being safe in that kind of environment.
So that's third culture. That's the reasons for. You find out you're 9 years old and at a family thing, and you realize you're the only one there that looks like they have a suntan. Everybody else is fish belly white, except you and your sister. And people are whispering, and you hear somebody say something in a woodpile. And you don't know what it means at the time, but you do know that they're not letting this is a family event. They're not letting their kids play with you. You go to the other side of the family where everybody's brown, and they're claiming they're Irish because it's a social event, something, I don't know. And you're just like, but we're not. And you just grow up with this, but what's going on for half your childhood? That's... And you still get it. You still get it because people go on... Yeah, I'm not going to go there.
As a child, it can be confusing. It's the way things are, though, so it's just what you get used to as a child. But as an adult, and you're still adapting, and you think you fit into the prevalent culture, and then find out suddenly that you don't for some reason, that you're othered.
It's being a child and having everybody on one side of the family blame your dad's side of the family, and everybody on the other side of the family blame your mom's side of the family, and nobody taking responsibility. Everybody says, oh, that's your dad, oh, that's your mom. And it's like, y'all hate each other. Oh no! Where does that leave me? Because I want to love my parents, but I'm not allowed to. I ain't. And then you go to work, and you're at work for 6 months in this job, and you think things are going great, and then the little blonde 18-year-old gets promoted into the job you were promised. And you're like, oh, what just happened? Oh, she's just better suited.
We need this forward-facing capability in our public interface.
Yeah.
Paradigm.
And it happens over and over and over again until you quit worrying about those promises.
And this continues to happen, and it's one of those things that's just... You go from career to career to career, and it continues to happen, and you start to experience a lot of self-doubt. Is this me? Is it?
Yeah, you get gaslighted by society when you're third culture, when you're mixed race. You know, am I causing the problem? Is it like restaurants? Am I the fault? Am I the thing in common? Until you meet somebody else and they light up and they're like, ooh, you brought rice? Yeah, I brought rice. Oh, cool. And suddenly you're like, oh, yeah, I think I'm hanging out with the wrong people. And you try to find your people because you're supposed to find your tribe in life. But who's your tribe?
As a third culture, you find out you don't really have a tribe.
So you go to science fiction conventions, good example, and you think, well, I'll hang out with Star Trek people. And you go hang out with Star Trek people and you start looking around and you're like, there's a lot of misogynistic bullshit going on here. Wow. So you kind of fade out. I'll go hang out with Star Wars people. And you go hang out with Star Wars people, and it's like, why are they all white?
And my favorite was maybe we need to find intelligent people to hang out with. That maybe that transcends all these difficulties. So we go and we bring in our standardized testing and are accepted into Mensa. Show up to Mensa meeting, and what are they talking about? Star Trek. That's it.
That's it. The
No,
entire
I was
meeting.
hoping they talk about like, oh, let's talk about the situation facing human population in the world and the future of the species. No, it's Star Trek. Your mileage may differ, but that was my experience with Mensa.
So you try to get involved in politics, and you go into a political group that seems to mirror your things, and I'm not going to name which one, and seems to
It
mirror
can be
everything.
several at this point because I've tried several and it's all worked out pretty much the same.
And you go, and you're at the first meeting, and you hear a whole bunch of freshman politics. Freshman politics are politics that haven't had their edges scraped off. There's no practicality to them. You know, it's not going to happen. Politics. And pie in the sky. And, you know, in a perfect world, that would be really, really nice. But how do we work towards getting there? And then they start talking about Star Trek. Or Star Wars.
That
Or
would be
Game of
that's my
Thrones.
Picard face palm if we want to keep it in a Star Trek mode.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so, you know, smart people do talk about this, but this political group just really isn't doing it for me. Can we talk about mutual aid? Can we talk about something practical? And
Things that benefit your community
yeah.
and trying to
So
build
you
a
try to
community.
join. So you try to join the community garden in 3 different states and 5 different towns. You try to join the community garden, and you find out, oh, we have a wait list 3 years long. Oh, can I sign up for it?
No.
Well, yeah, get me next week. Get me next week. Get me next week. Get me next week. Get me next week.
Because
Meanwhile, half the beds are empty.
and you've already been sized up and what? You've been othered.
You've been othered. You've been rejected. Half of the beds are empty. Half of the beds are overgrown. Nothing's getting watered. Can I sign up? No.
I'll water everybody's bed.
Now, I'll come in and weed everybody's flower beds. No. 3 different states, 5 different cities. Every pea patch community garden program I've ever tried to join. No. We have a 3-year waiting list.
They're really good at reading you right off the bat.
Some of us walk around life with a bright neon karma sign. Mine says, ask me a question. Mine says, I work here. I know where it's at. Ask me where the towels are, and I'll tell you aisle 3. I cannot go into a grocery store. I mean, I can go in my Sunday best, dressed up for a funeral or a wedding.
Or both.
Or both. That happened one day. And some old woman will walk up and say, excuse me, where do I find the baking powder?
You go through those double doors right back there in the back and keep going, and you'll see a door with a push bar. Push that. That's where they are.
Excuse me. Yes. I need you to put this back for me. I don't work here, but put it back for me. Slam.
I was there for that one. That was fun.
She slammed it into my cart. Oh. And some of us go through life with bright neon signs above their head that say, like me. And yet they still are insecure about whether or not people like them.
Oh, is that my sign?
Yeah.
Oh.
Your sign says you're a puppy dog like you, or pet you, I don't know.
I'm good with both, I guess.
Yeah.
We can handle that.
So, third culture, we talked about that. The perspective, we've talked about that. The paradigm model, that perfection would be finding your tribe. Finding a group of people that you can hang out with, which we have found at times, but we move too much.
Again, as we already covered the moving.
Yeah, you get a group of people together and things are working really good. One of the things that happens that I have found, because unless you're a really dominant narcissistic personality, if you get a really good group of people together, a dominant narcissistic person will come in and take them from you. And you have to watch for that. And then you look like you're the dominant narcissistic person by putting rules down. No, you can't come into my group and troll for your group. You can't. Don't steal my membership. You know?
Can't we just coexist?
Well, we could, except I planned a party and you planned a party on the same day. A week later, which means you're deliberately countering against my party. Oh no, we do this every year. No, you
No,
don't.
this is the first time we did this, and you
Yeah.
thought our idea was good. So, anyway,
Yeah.
that's a different thing. That's
No, that's part of the perfect model that doesn't work, the either or.
okay. You're absolutely right. That is exactly that.
Yeah. You get a group of people going together. You get this really good energy going. You think you have people you can really, really trust, and then one of them slowly but surely fades into Trumperism. Been watching that. And you're left going, can I trust this person? Are they just putting this stuff up because of social reasons, because they need to? Or are they flaking out? You know? You get a group of people going, and then somebody comes in and suddenly somebody defriends you and his friends. Person 1 comes into the group, and person B, who's been there for 10 years, defriends you. What just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And person 1 starts hanging out with this other person, and this other person, and this other, and they slowly but surely take over half the group. And my take on it is, if somebody's that wants to go, you weren't a friend to begin with, go.
Yeah, go ahead.
But
Go in peace.
every group we've had, this has happened with over and over and over again. It's kind of like, okay, one of the big things that happens with churches is that a preacher will come in and steal the church. And it doesn't seem like you can steal the church if he's the preacher, but churches are, one church does not exist. Each church is part of a larger jurisdiction.
Congress, anything like that.
Okay. So you have one church within this jurisdiction, and something will happen to the priest or the preacher, and a new priest or preacher will come in. Well, a church is a huge moneymaker, okay?
Can be.
It is. Even a church with 30 members is making enough money to support the priest's family, the building, and usually a little extra. Okay? So we're talking $30,000 to $40,000 a year minimum coming out of 30 people. That's how it works. This new priest comes in, and the church is supposed to pay 10% to its Congress. And it's supposed to put 40% into a building fund and 30% into this. There's all these rules. The new priest will come in, and he'll cut the Congress out. He'll just say, we're no longer part of that Congress. And unless the population is large enough and paying enough attention, it just happens. Congresses will sue to get their church building back. You don't own the building. You have to pay rent on the building and that kind of stuff. But sometimes a church will be independently owned. The building will be owned by the congregation.
Or the congregation will be leasing a facility from a larger unaffiliated church.
From a larger unaffiliated church. Poaching churches is a thing.
And it happens all the time.
Yeah. With a friends group, we have had so many times where we're starting to really build up, and then suddenly everything's gone. And it's like, did that just happen? That just happened. Are they going to do anything with it? No, they're just doing it for the sake of doing it. It's frustrating. I don't know where I'm going with that. That's either or.
Yeah, the point is, things can change. And when you're in a group and its leadership changes, or it's taken from the initial leadership, say if it's your group, and it happens more than once, is that you? Or have you been othered by multiple other peoples?
So then you start looking at the makeup of the group and the people that shifted off. And what I have found almost every time is I'm trying to think of a polite way to put it, and I can't come up with it.
Use your I want to no.
Yeah.
Don't use those words. Use the other words. I don't want to say use your academic words, because those aren't helpful either.
Those aren't helpful either. When a group schisms, you can almost always tell how it's going to break and who's going to go where. And what happens is you have a group, and you've got me who's mixed race, and them who's mixed race, and another friend who's just one race, Asian, out of culture, whatever their culture is. And you've got somebody who's a little darker skinned with really curly hair but doesn't identify as anything. And then you have all of these tangential white people. Okay, white people.
Which we're just using as an example from...
variations.
Yeah, it can be any cultural group.
Okay. When a group schisms, this is the group that goes away. 90% of the time. But when a narcissist comes in, when somebody who comes in and is controlling, what they do is they go for this person and they go for this person. They can't get that person because he lives with me. But they go for all of the people of color that they can. And they buddy up to them and they make friends with them. And they're so much more understanding. And they're so much nicer. And when the group schisms, it's half of the people of color or the mixed race people and a couple of the other white people. And when that happens, you know it's a narcissist almost exclusively because they're going for power, prestige, and for taking something away. As opposed to a natural schism of, well, I thought we were a backpacking group, but now you're saying we're just a camping group, and I kind of want the backpacking group back, so I'm going to form my own backpacking group.
That's a natural schism.
That's a natural
These are things
schism.
that happen in any type of group where the interests sort of polarize into different subsets of the original idea.
Yeah, this is a make space for woodwork, and I wanted to make space for jewelry, so I'm going to go with all the jewelers over here. You know, that kind of thing.
That's a normal process.
That's a normal thing. Or our car club was all about Dodge, but then you brought in these Ford guys, and now there's only 5 Ford guys and 2 Dodge guys, and us 2 Dodge guys are going to go away. That's natural. But when somebody comes in and goes after, say you're a band, they go after the singer and the guitar player, and they ignore the drummer. There's a problem. They're trying to steal
poor
the band.
drummers.
They're trying to steal. They don't go after the bass player.
No, it's the drummers and the bass players are their own little universe.
Yeah.
And I apologize to all my drummer and bass player friends. You're just kind of stuck, and I apologize for that. You're some of the best musicians I've ever known, but
you see it when it's happening. You really, really do. Okay. Moving in and letting go. Your turn.
moving in and letting go. When you're moving in and you're new town, new place, you want to get a group of friends. You don't have any friends in a new location, so you start investigating some of these social groups. It could be fraternal organizations, it could be community or civic organizations, it could be political organizations, church-based, or any other number of things.
Volunteer fire department.
Yeah, you can do volunteer at the museums, whatever's in your background, whatever you can do, you start doing this. And it's a long road.
When you're younger, making friends is easier. When you're older, it gets harder. When you're third culture, it gets even harder. We went to H Mart today. Like I said, a long day. And checking out the cashier who...
If you're unfamiliar with H Mart is a chain of Korean supermarkets. And
think Fred Meyer's for Koreans, with everything from Mexican to Russian thrown in.
And your East Coasters think Wegmans.
Okay, it's a huge store full of amazing things. I needed a couple of things that are not available in a regular grocery store. They needed to take their phone back because they kidnapped the work phone.
That was my fault. I did that.
We had to go into Portland today to do that, and we went to H Mart, and the cashier checking out. So she gets to the first item, she goes to scan it, and she comes to a complete stop and stares at it for a minute and then looks up at us.
Like, why are you buying a box of sticky rice?
Why are you buying sticky rice? Scans it. I smile and nod. We all have masks on.
Yeah.
She puts it aside. She goes to the next thing, which was jujubes, which are... They're a date thing.
Yeah, it's a funny little fruit thing.
They're a funny little fruit thing that you make syrup out of. They're yummy. Okay? I want to try growing the trees because I know they can grow in the area. So she gets to it, and she comes to a stop, and she looks at it. And one of the things I do is I get half ripe and half green.
Yep.
And she's looking at the back, and she realizes that's what I've done. And she's like...
And she looks back at us, trying to size us up, figure this out.
and puts them on the scale. And I'm like, geez, type. She goes for the next thing. I don't remember what the next thing was, but she...
It's probably my gimbop.
No, it wasn't. It was the crab paste. I got
yeah,
crab paste.
That's good
And
stuff.
she pulls the crab paste and she's like... I'm like...
I can't identify what you are, but you're
Yeah.
buying our stuff. Why are you buying our stuff?
She scans it. She's doing this through the entire order. And she keeps coming to a stop, looking at it, looking at us, looking at it. I'm nodding. She goes on.
And one of my special treats going to H Mart is when they have the little styro wrap trays of gimbop, shelf-stable gimbop, stable for a day or so.
Gimbop is not sushi,
It
looks like sushi.
looks like sushi. It looks like a fudamaki.
but it's pickled carrots and pickled burdock and pickled daikon and all kinds of crunchy things, and sometimes some crab meat. And then they oil the seaweed, so it's got a chewier electric tape texture. I personally do not like gimbap. It's okay. I can work my way through a couple of pieces, not with this tooth right now, but themselves
It's
love
my
it.
special treat for going to H Mart. And then the pickled radish in there just crunch, 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 crunch,
Yeah,
crunch.
we'll have a talk about that in a minute. So, as she's ringing up, it's self-bag. So I go around the outside, and we've bought a tray thingy that we need. And I'm putting everything into the tray thingy, and condensing and putting it in, and everything. And finally she turns, she goes, "How many bags do you..." "Oh, need 1. "Okay." Yeah, she was expecting 3 to 5. But I've condensed everything into the containers that I'm buying, and it fit.
And the rest of the other things were in its own packaging.
Yeah.
They were large enough they did not require a bag.
And she's like, "Oh." So she finishes, they pay, and they're like, "Have a good day." And it's like, "You too." That's somebody that if we lived closer to H Mart and we went in once a week, we would start chatting with. That's somebody that we can interact with, but we don't go to H Mart once a week.
It's a rare thing. It's every 6 months, more or less.
Yeah, pretty much 3 months.
No, 3 months.
3 months.
Anyway, it's long enough interval that it's why gimbap is a special treat.
Yeah. I don't remember where I was going with that.
You're just going
Something
the
about
fact,
moving in and making friends and
the big fact was being unable to be pigeonholed, unable to be explained away into a certain cultural or racial group, and how it can be surprising to folks.
yeah, that wasn't my point, but that's okay.
That's my point.
So moving in, I have somebody on my social media right now that's going through hell because they met a guy, they thought they were in love, they started to get married, and he put a clause in the prenup that any trust fund for education shall go for all the children. At which point she started to balk and went, "What?" And had her lawyer look at it, and it turns out he's got 7 kids that he never told her about. And now she's wondering if the only reason they're together is because she has a trust fund for her daughter.
Yeah.
And I have always had a thing, be careful of new best friend syndrome. If you meet somebody and they want to be your new best friend, what happened to the old best friend? If you've just moved into town, yeah, I've got a slot open for new best friend. If you're looking and you live in Salem, I've got a slot open. But I can tell you what happened to the old best friend. The old best friend is living in Indiana. The best friend before that lives up in Portland, and we see each other every so often. The best friend before that turned out to be a narcissist. The best friend before... I can tell you...
And several are no longer on this planet.
And quite a few are no longer on this planet.
Not to mean that they left the planet, but they're no longer in this terrestrial plane.
Yes, dear. Be careful
shed
of
the mortal
people
coil.
who are looking for new best friends, because at 50 years of age, your life should be full, unless you're third culture, at which point it isn't full. I've been thinking that we're going to look into doing... We were looking at it before the pandemic started and everything got put on the sidelines. But there are ESL classes, adult ESL classes, English as a second language. And we could coach in those and meet some people.
And we can teach people our exciting dialect.
Yeah, no. Anyway, on letting go. One of the things people do is they hold on too hard to the ideal person. It's like It's like the person who said they had the perfect cat once, therefore they'll never have another cat. Or they had this one dog and it's the perfect dog, therefore they'll never have another dog.
Or the writer in Camus' The Plague.
Looking for the perfect sentence. Yes. Not quite the same thing. Not quite.
I just needed to interject something like intellectual so I can pretend.
Mm-hmm. You could pretend anyway. You need to not hold on to the last best friend when looking for the next best friend. You need to not hold people to standards that no longer apply because somebody else met that standard. When you're in the military, one of my conditions was they had to be able to run faster than me because I needed help running faster. That is not a standard I would apply anymore.
Yeah, that got me through basic training.
Yeah, I wouldn't apply the standard of they need to be able to drink more than me.
That got me through tech school.
Yeah, but those standards don't apply now.
No, that's a different set of rules.
Now, you got to have a driver's license because I don't. Kind of hard to meet up if we can't meet up.
If it's a work day for me, you can come fetch them.
Yeah. Decolonizing. Like going plastic free or zero waste. Decolonizing your expectations, decolonizing the people you hang out with.
When you think about it, decolonization of people makes a lot of sense. It's a bit odd way to look at things at first glance.
It is, if you realize that, okay, my standards are really, really simple. They are decolonized.
Yep.
Because I life coach a guy, and he regularly quotes problematic sources because he still believes them, because he's colonized. And I regularly point out that source is problematic, and that quote is even more problematic. Have you really thought about what's being said there? And half of our conversations evolve around things like that, and he winds up with, oh shit, how come nobody ever told me that? Because you weren't listening.
And that's what life coaching is all about.
That's what life coaching is about.
A good life coach.
Decolonizing your friends is as simple as having the standard that you know the difference between a work acquaintance and a friend. You know the difference between a boss and a friend. You know the difference between the idiot neighbor and a friend.
And make no mistake, work acquaintances can become friends.
They can become friends. The idiot neighbor can become a friend. I'm not saying a work acquaintance isn't a friend. I'm saying know the difference.
Right, know the difference. Know that it's not automatically that.
Being third culture, being raised in that void, you grab a hold of people real fast. Oh, hi, you smiled at me. We're friends?
It's the golden retriever view of life.
Yeah, we're friends. We went out for coffee once. That's a tradition. It's the 6-year-old or the 4-year-old. It's the golden retriever. Yeah. And we do that. And decolonizing is placing standards, even though I just said let go of some standards. Decolonizing is placing standards that are placed, they're set up to reduce the amount of pain, I guess.
They're an insulating.
If I meet you and you tell me you're an active member of a Baptist church, we're not friends. I got nothing against Baptists. I got something against Southern Baptists, but I got nothing against Baptists. I got nothing against Catholics. I got nothing against Mormons. I got nothing against any of the religions I've been part of over the years.
It's just personal experience over many, many, many years.
If you're an active member of a church, that is your life. And I'm never going to have a place in your life. You're going to spend your entire time trying to convert me. And it's like being friend zoned. Okay? Or not friend zoned. It's like having the person with unrequited love not tell you that they have unrequited love and just keep trying to shift you. They're gaslighting. I'm not explaining it right.
No, you lost me a little bit on that one, but the initial concept on that is valid. See, I gaslight it by giving you validity on your initial.
There's
See,
this.
it's a really easy to do. That's the problem with all this.
Okay. When you meet somebody and you find out that they sell Amway, when you meet somebody and you find out that they're a member of a Southern Baptist church or a Free Methodist church or a Foursquare church or the Mormon church,
There's something that defines their life outside.
or they're a NASCAR fan, or they're British
No,
and
if they're a NASCAR fan and I guess I won't go there.
if you find out somebody, you get invited out to dinner and you find out that they're an Amway person. And I know Amway's old, not nearly as relevant today. But it means that you're nothing to them but a potential sale.
Yep. And another downline for them to put on their record so they can advance in that system.
Yeah. Anybody who's active in church, you're just a potential sale. Anybody who's
active in the culture of the church.
Yeah. It's like we tried SCA for a while. And there are things about SCA I really like.
There's some great things.
It's a little too white centristic, a little too white blind, snow blind. That's what they are. They're snow blind. They can't see the problems.
And it comes up again and again.
Because it comes up again and again and again and again and again and again and again. The thing that got me was when I realized that to actually advance within the society, there's scriptorium on Tuesday, fighter practice on Wednesday,
Archery on Wednesday.
Archery on Thursday. Yeah. Friday's fighter practice. Saturday's sewing. Every day of the week has something.
Yep.
And if you want to advance, you have to be good and active in at least 3 spots, which means that it's replacing church.
It's your entire life at that point.
Because if you go to church, there's church on Sunday, there's choir meeting on Monday, there's the ladies meeting on Tuesday,
Bible study on Wednesday.
There's Wednesday church, Bible study on Thursday, and Friday night is singles night.
And then Saturday is getting everything ready for Sunday.
And Saturday's getting everything ready for Sunday.
Altar Guild.
It's the same. SCA church, it's the same. It's the same format. Go ahead.
You know, it's just anything that requires most of your conscious attention to function in part of a group. That's okay. If that's the only thing you have going, that's fine. You can find fellowship and friendship and everything you need within that particular cultural group.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking for more things or a greater connection to the whole, it can be kind of frustrating, which has been
That's been our thing. We would have joined the SCA here when we first got here, but the meetings are on one of his work nights starting at 6 p.m. He doesn't get home till 7 p.m. There's no way.
We've looked back to going back to Civil Air Patrol for that same reason.
We looked into Civil Air Patrol. There's a one in Aurora that looks fairly decent. It's got minorities in it, people of color.
There's one here 2 miles from us at the airport.
I'm not doing that one. It looks like a bunch of cops. Absolutely looks like a bunch of cops. The SCA here. Yeah, the SCA here local looks like a bunch of cops. And they all look like they have a lot of money. All of their photos, they have nobody in anything that isn't expensive. That cuts out a lot of people. And that photo spread on their website is designed to discourage people who can't afford to play at their level.
So if you're in the area, join our camping group.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah. Anyway. Decolonizing. Decolonizing is setting self-limits. This is where I was going with that. Self-limits where if you tell me you're active in religion, I'm going to be like, okay, well, we can be acquaintances. If you tell me that there's not that many other points.
No, you pretty much covered it.
You know? If you quote Christopher Columbus at me, we're not going to be friends. You know, these are things that I set up in advance where when I meet a person, I tend to info dump at people. A, I babble when I'm nervous, and B, if I'm going to shock or piss you off, I want to do it the first time we meet so I don't have any emotions invested.
You're really, really good at that.
And most
We
people,
have many anecdotes of.
most people will have met for 15 minutes and I'll make an off-color LGBT joke, pro-LGBT joke that's off-color, and people, it's like, okay, so you're anti-LGBT. Oh no, I put out a flag for my cousin. Okay, you get points for trying, but no. And people don't come back, and that's fine. That's fine.
Again, it's a journey that we're on, and we're all third culture peoples have similar stories of difficulties and challenges.
Yeah, we sit
becoming
down
part
with
of a
people.
community.
Yeah.
So we're at our half hour
How can you tell?
because we have a big
Oh,
clock
yeah,
on the
clock
wall
up.
right there.
Okay, so we're going to stop it about now. I'm going to put my hand up and see if it stops on my hand the way it started on my hand.
So if we see some waving at the camera, that's all right. We don't edit this because the whole fun with this is live stream. This is the same as if you're in your living room with us right now.
One of the things he's been doing that's been throwing me off, talking about gaslighting, is he keeps getting behind me because then I look so much bigger than he is. No, come on. Yeah, see, you're big.
So we're going to try and see if we can turn this off.
Okay, so I have to turn it off this
Do
way.
it the manual way. Here we go. Ah!
Did I get it?